Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Corey Crystal, a project leader at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and we're so glad to have you join us for the second webinar in our Wind Workforce series as part of American Wind Week. We started off the series with a great set of presentations yesterday, looking at the status of the wind energy workforce, preliminary impacts from COVID, and began a discussion of industry and workforce gaps. Today, we're diving into the topic of workforce development, starting at young ages. Tomorrow, we'll continue the discussion focusing on post-secondary education programs and exploring some of the gaps we heard about yesterday. You can still sign up for tomorrow's webinar on AWEA's events page, and I hope that you will join us for that. Before we begin, I'd like to express our thanks to the Department of Energy's Wind Energy Technology Office and the American Wind Energy Association, both of whose support and partnership have made this webinar series possible. As we get started, we'd love to get a sense of who is joining us by doing a brief poll. If you could please indicate which sector of the energy industry you work in. And if you don't see your sector represented in the options here, please go ahead and put type out your sector in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you. So I'll give a minute just to let folks participate. I think maybe we'll go ahead and close the poll. Not sure why it doesn't seem like it was working, but we'll go ahead and move on. Today's webinar is going to be moderated by Rebecca Lamb from the NEED Project. And Becky, I'll let you take it away.
Rebecca, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. We welcome you. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for being here. This is a topic that we're all very passionate about, and we hope that if you're interested in it and you're not yet passionate about it, it's something that you become passionate about as well. And that is thinking about workforce development in a little bit of a different light than it's traditionally thought of. Often when people think about workforce development, they really think about how do we get kids from college? How do we get kids who have gone through training programs, and focusing on those people who are maybe in their 20s or late teens. And what we find, and research continues to say, is that a lot of students are making some pretty important decisions related to careers much earlier than a lot of people think. As early as middle school, or making choices about the courses that they take in middle school that then affect their capacity to actually go into different careers. So we're excited that you're with us to hear some perspectives from some people in industry, some people in education on this topic. I myself am Rebecca Lamb. I am with the National Energy Education Development Project. We are a nonprofit that focuses on energy education, and Remy will speak a little bit more about her organization, mine, shortly. But I wanted to first give our panelists each an opportunity to introduce themselves so that you could hear a little bit more about them and where they're coming from and their experience that they have. So I think we'll kick it off with Greg.
Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Holman. I'm a 6th grade teacher in Paradise, California. It's my 25th year teaching 6th grade. I have an interesting background in that I was kind of in 7 or 8 years into being a 6th grade teacher thinking, I think I want to do something else. And that's when I met NEED, the NEED project, and learned about energy and learned how to energize kids In about 2006, 2007, I met Mike from Kidwind in San Francisco. And ever since then, I've been really passionate about science and math with kids and really seeing the light go on with kids engaged and loving what they're doing. My dad was an administrator at a community college and head of vocational education, so I really know the importance of looking at all the possibilities that kids have when they're going forward. And we're in a unique spot. In 2018, our town burned, and you might have heard about that. My classroom burned, and it was funny because this was what brought kids back. We started working with wind turbines and doing hands-on, and you would have thought nothing happened. So look forward to the discussion today, and thanks for having me.
And we'll head over to Hannah.
Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Mcgoldrick. I'm a project manager for utility based out of Chicago. So I actually have a degree in human resource management, but I grew up in a utility industry family. So from an early age, I got to see the importance of it and how it truly impacted the communities. My brother ended up going to work at a nuclear plant on the field side and went through a vocational program. I was a part of a leadership program at college. I went to Central Michigan University, and we participated heavily in Detroit public schools, working with kids in leadership skills. So when I started at ComEd post-graduation, we had a few programs working with students in workforce development, and I could kind of fit my niche of working with leadership and working with public school students and really seeing them recognize their value and then recognize that value and dedicate it to maybe a career that they had never even thought about or didn't even know existed. So that's where I really found my passion, and now I oversee a lot of our workforce development programs, working with kids all sorts of different ages. Depending on the day, it looks like I'm either in the classroom teaching, touching on different topics of like our smart grid, renewable energy, our careers in the field entry level, as well as on the management side, or even attending the school and being a guest speaker in the classroom. So I also really enjoy and see the value in vocational programs and workforce development at an early age. It's never too early to start. So I am really excited to be here and join in on the discussion. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And we'll go on to Doug.
Hi, everyone. I'm Doug Keaton. I'm the general foreman for Design Electric. This is my 40th year as an electrician, and the current project that I'm working on here at the University of Virginia is some smart lighting for the football fields and football practice fields. So all LED, high efficiency lighting, really focused on the energy management side of things and the smart apps that will control these lights. Makes it pretty exciting. I've been around need and energy education for about 13 years now. And as a vocational school teacher, as well as working in the industry on a daily basis. And I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Remy, I know you're going to talk a little bit later, but do you want to give a quick introduction now, just as a hello? Okay. Then
I can do that. That's fine. Just briefly, I'm Remy Pangle with Repowering Schools, and I also wear a second hat. I work at James Madison University in Virginia as one of the Wind for Schools states, and I administer the Wind for Schools program in Virginia. So I've worked with Doug, and good to see you, Doug. And yeah, so I'll be talking to you in more detail about repowering schools in a minute.
wonderful. Natalie?
All right, let me get myself off mute. Hi, my name is Natalie Perez. I'm the Talent Acquisition Manager at ADP Renewable. This is actually my first year in renewable energy, as I did come from the oil and gas side, but I did participate in several energy panels, which included educating some middle school kids about just the energy sector. I'm really excited to be part of this panel and also just to be a part of the discussion of the continuing education of our young folks. So thank you and good to be here.
Great, thank you. And Bevan, I'll have you go next.
Sure, yeah, I'm Bevan Augustine. I'm External Communications Manager at EDP Renewables. I am our company's lead in working with KidWind. That's a program that we've been working with for about the last 7 or 8 years, and over that period of time have been really trying to expand our support of KidWind. We've seen a lot of really great outcomes when it comes to bringing KidWind in to do teacher training workshops and help get curriculum into the schools. We sponsor challenges. There are a number of educators in different states, including Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Washington, Oregon, where we've kind of established some long-term relationships. And our focus has really been on schools and communities around our wind farms. We feel like KidWind is a great way to introduce folks to, or young students to careers in renewable energy. And yeah, it's been a really great program to work with, and look forward to talking more about it.
Thank you. And Jaden.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jaden. I am a sophomore at Sonoma State University, where I am pursuing a degree in physics. I was first introduced to renewable energy my junior and senior year in high school, and I was a part of a 3-person team, and we competed in the KidWind Challenge. And ever since then, I've just been fascinated with renewable energy.
Excellent. Thank you. So these are your panelists. We've got a good lineup of questions that I have, and then we're hoping after I ask them some questions and prod them that you all have some really good questions as well. The next thing we want to do, I think a few people logged on since we did the first poll. We're going to do another quick poll, thinking about how you invest in workforce development. I'll give people just a few more seconds to vote. There's no right or wrong answer. And I think we can go ahead and close the poll. So these are the results that we're looking at. A lot of other, and I'd be really interested if those of you that selected other would like to type into the chat box what that other is. I think we'd all be really interested to see what that is. Looks like we have a lot of internships, some campus recruiting, some teacher workshops, not a lot of student scholarships, but really a focus on internships and some other methods not listed here. Oh, that's very insightful to us. I think you'll hear some additional ideas on this webinar about opportunities and other ways you might engage with your workforce development recruitment. The next thing I want to do is I would like to turn it over to Remy Pangle. Remy is with Repowering Schools, and one of the organizations which is a driving force in promoting renewable energy education. And she's just going to speak for a few minutes about her organization and some of the other organizations that exist out there that are doing some good work. So I will turn it over to Remy. Remy, I think you are muted.
You are.
There we go. Okay, somebody kept muting me back. Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm Remy Pangle with Repowering Schools. The reason I wanted to have a couple minutes to chat with you guys today was just to and I bring a little bit more awareness to this new organization. We are a 501c3, and we work with educators and the renewable energy industry. Oh, wow. Sorry, things are going a little haywire here. To support programming in the area of renewable energy education. So our main goal is to really support and connect the renewable energy industry with the schools, the educators, the colleges, all of the folks that are really doing that workforce education on the ground, just to enable projects and to facilitate collaborations between the parties and see what we can do to really make things happen in this workforce space. So some of you may be familiar with the Wind for Schools program that is supported by the National Renewable Energy Labs and DOE. And this is a nonprofit that is kind of working together with NREL to support the Wind for Schools program, but at the same time, the nonprofit side, the Repowering School side is looking to also expand the program by integrating solar into the discussion of renewable energy education and not focusing solely on wind. Also hoping to grow the networks of educators and schools and states that are doing amazing things. Right now, Wind for Schools and Repowering Schools are active in 12 states. So the map indicates the states that we have what we call wind application centers, and those are universities at which they head up the project in that state. And then those universities then work and reach out into the K-12 environment to find schools that are looking for renewable energy educational resources. So some of the K-12 educational activities that you might see in one of these active states could be tours of wind and solar system installations at a university, or maybe a local wind farm or manufacturer or something. Participating in a KidWind challenge, wind or solar challenge with the KidWind. Participating in wind or solar energy teacher trainings, either KidWind or NEED or some other curricula that covers energy education. And then, of course, really getting those hands-on activities into the classroom. So working with folks like NEED and KidWind to get the kits and the gear so that the kids can build and do. So I think every state does things a little bit differently, but these are some of the great activities that are going on that we need industry to support. So the main reason that I wanted to take a couple minutes is because Repowering Schools is relatively new to this space. We work very closely with NEED and with KidWind, but a lot of times I think there's confusion, like what is Repowering Schools and how is it related? So I just thought I'd take a second to clarify our partnership with KidWind and NEED. So Repowering Schools is the people who kind of support and fund the projects that are going on in each of those 12 states. And within each of those 12 states, they're doing great things in the K-12 schools, and a lot of times it's NEED and or KidWind that are providing the curricula, the professional development, the kits in order to make those amazing things happen at the state level. So they're on the ground in our active states doing the educating and really inspiring the kids. So there are lots of other amazing organizations out there that offer renewable energy education programming and resources. KidWind and NEED kind of really hit it on the nail on the head when it comes to renewables, but there's others like Project Lead the Way, Project Learning Tree, the Center for Energy Workforce Development that all have curricula, resources, and programming that support career development in STEM areas and some specifically in the energy area. So just to kind of, I don't know, hopefully clarify the relationship between all of us, if that's helpful. So with that, that's pretty much all I had, but I will be around if there are specific questions about repowering schools or anything else that industry can do to support K-12. You can support repowering schools, you can support KidWind, you can support NEED, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So because we love audience participation, we're going to do one more poll, and this will really help us maybe frame our conversation as well. So one last poll is, what's the youngest grade level you include in your workforce development programs? Give people about 15 more seconds. Awesome. Let's show the results. So a lot of people on this call are not currently involved in workforce development programs. I'd be interested to know if you're interested in typing into the chat if that's because it's not the role you serve at your organization, or if it's because your organization is interested in doing workforce development, but maybe hasn't had the opportunity or found the right place to really dive into that. Looks like we have some elementary. We've got a good number of middle school, which is great to see, some high school, and then the post-secondary. So thank you for taking that poll. Thank you for sharing with us. I have gotten a couple questions in, just so everybody's aware. The format for today, we're gonna ask some questions that I have already, and then I'm going to follow up with the questions that I've got posted here. So if you have questions throughout the program, feel free to add them into that question section, and we will get through as many as we can at the end of the program. So without further ado, we're going to start our discussion panel, and I will direct some questions to some individuals on our panel. My first question is for Hannah and it's for Natalie. How does your company focus on workforce development? What age do you start? What do you do? How do you engage in workforce development? And I'll start with Hannah.
So ComEd focuses on workforce development in a very broad variety. We focus it on kind of two angles. So one will be from our management side. So that looks more of our STEM, engineering wise, project management wise. And that comes starting as young as our K through elementary. We have an Energizing Student Potential program. And then our junior high, we do a few different energy sessions, we could call them, or workshops. And then in high school is when we really try to connect with the students in a plethora of different programs. We have Icebox Derby, which is one of my favorites. It is so neat. It's for high school age girls, and we actually turn old recycled refrigerators into derby cars, and they're solar powered, and they get to race them, and it is just really, really neat. They work alongside all of our engineers, so they get mentors, they build a network, they work with other girls like-minded, and they also learn renewable energy concepts throughout. So that's one. We have Solar Spotlight again. We focus on that high school age, and then for these we usually do a focus. So Hispanic Heritage Month will do one, African American History Month will do one, different things like that, just so we make sure we're reaching out to our communities and making sure that we are prevalent and helping with workforce development, kind of broad spectrum. Tools of the Trade also, that's a program that's near and dear to my heart. I actually was able to kind of revamp a curriculum and build it from the ground up to surround it around skilled trades. So that's one that we actually pay our students. It's called a free apprenticeship. So they come to us for 7 weeks. We work on hand tools, power tools, expose them to renewable energies by building wind turbines. We do some solar panel work, electrical work. So not just our skilled trades, but a variety of skilled trades. So ComEd kind of focuses across the board, like I said, that management side, and then also our field side, because one of the really diverse benefits of a utility is you have lots of different background experience requirements. So a lot of our field worker positions and also our call center, you just have to be 18, have a high school degree, and then pass a few other tests. And then you obviously come out with a great living, and it's awesome. So it's really neat to make that connection with high school students. That's definitely my passion, seeing them recognize their potential and explore all these different avenues of careers available to them within the energy industry. So that kind of broad spectrum is some of the programs that I directly work with. I'll probably touch on more throughout the day, but I really enjoy it, and I'm really proud to work for a company that sees the need in student workforce development. And I'll pass it to Natalie.
Thank you, Hannah. Great stuff, by the way. So I'm going to two-part this question with my co-panelist here, Bevan, but I'm going to talk primarily about what we kind of do in Houston as a broad sector, and then he'll talk more about the Kidwind. So in Houston, we do some Energy Day, which is more, again, broad servicing or getting a broad net of youth throughout the city that come to the different booths for energy, so primarily focus on that. Another great thing that I think we do as an organization is Take Your Kid to Work Day, which kind of some companies have decided not to do that, but I think it's a really great focus because as our young kids are with us now, we're here in this pandemic, they get to see what mom and dad do at home, which what they would be doing at work. So it's kind of neat for them to see a different side of what mom and dad are doing at work. So that's some of the things that we do in Houston. We are looking to expand those programs and things that we offer in Houston because that's where our corporate office is. But I'll pass it on to Bevan so he can talk more about what we're doing across the country with Kidwind.
Yeah, thanks, Natalie. With Kidwind, we tend to focus around the project communities where we have wind farms built, and you know, there are a number of different ways that we work with Kidwind. But going down the list of a few of them, oftentimes we'll work to just identify some interested educators, folks that, you know, see the value in bringing kind of hands-on renewable energy education into their classrooms, and we'll provide scholarships for them to attend, you know, a week-long training. They call it the Recharge Academy that takes place each summer. So we'll try to, you know, sort of equip those teachers with the skills that they need to kind of go back to their schools and to, you know, train some other teachers. We found a lot of really great educators through there that we've been continuing to support their work as they go to other schools and kind of help spread these activities and kind of the program to other locations. Another thing that we'll do is sponsor teacher training workshops. So where we're not able to sort of find a real strong champion, we'll bring Kidwind in and, you know, invite, you know, anywhere from 5-10 teachers, if it's a really small community, all the way up to 20, 25, 30 from surrounding communities to come in and spend a day or two, you know, learning about the materials, learning how to build the turbine kits. And again, it's really about equipping teachers with the resources they need to go back into their classrooms and start incorporating this curriculum and activities into their lesson plans related to, you know, generally STEM skills. We'll also sponsor teams, you know, when you know, I think Greg had mentioned Kidwind challenges as being, and Jaden as well, sort of activities that they had participated in. So, you know, we find that that's a really, you know, great opportunity to bring kids in at an early age. And, you know, that feels a lot more than just kind of your traditional STEM skills. It's a lot of team building activities, collaboration, and then, you know, the way that the challenges are designed, they're not just based on, you know, how good or how efficient of a turbine they build. You know, they have to put together a poster board presentation, so they're practicing some communication skills. You know, as Hannah mentioned, one of the neat things about this industry is it's not just, you know, sort of an engineer background or, you know, in our case at a wind farm, a wind technician. You know, there are a lot of different career opportunities, and I feel like the challenges are a really good way for kids to kind of get exposed to some of the different aspects of what it takes to build a wind farm, from, you know, environmental kind of studies and permitting to site design and, you know, things like my role in communications. And then beyond Kidwind, you know, we do a lot of direct engagement, trying to expose kids to careers in the wind industry. And, you know, offer the opportunity to learn about the industry more generally. So we'll do quite a few wind farm tours. A lot of our sites, you know, every year we'll bring a few busloads of kids in to go in and see how a site operates and works. And then we also do quite a few classroom visits where our operations managers or technicians will go in, bring their gear, and, you know, just talk a little bit about what it's like working on a wind farm and being a part of producing wind energy.
Cool. Very cool. My next question, I'm going to direct towards Doug and Jaden, two very different perspectives, I think, on this particular question. But my question is, where do you think workforce development starts? So where does it start? When does it start? Jaden, maybe you could share a little bit about how you got interested as well. Maybe we'll start with you, Jaden.
Yeah, so I would definitely say through my personal experience, workforce development starts within the classroom, because I fell in love with science and engineering and renewable energy my junior year in my physics class. And then when I was able to participate in the Kid Win Challenge, that only furthered my hands-on experience with engineering and understanding how what I am doing in class is actually applicable within the real world. And so through the multiple experiments and the trial and error of testing my wind turbine, it was just very fascinating to me to realize how people are actually performing these in the real world. And it just really opened my eyes to like the endless possibilities of renewable energy.
Thank you. And Doug.
I agree with Jaden. You know, it starts really early. I like to think that my first exposure to electrical work specifically was around the 7th to 8th grade. And I found that in talking with students about becoming an electrician at an early age, that's what gets them stimulated and thinking. And like what Jaden said regarding high school, when you're in a science class or you're in a physics class and you can see the application of what you're learning to what's really happening in the real world, that's a wow moment. That's just, it fires all of your nerve synapses in your brain and your eyes and your hands, and you kind of go crazy, right? Because you get this excitement that's like, oh my gosh, this is real stuff and this is really cool, and I can do this and I can show someone else how to do it. And the energy that comes from that, I think, is transformative, to say the very least, from the classroom to what I do in the industry, right? Every day I'm working with it. And I just think it's, that's the time, sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I know my personal experience is similar to that as well. My next question, I'm going to direct towards Greg and Natalie. Why is it important to start teaching specifically renewable energy and careers in renewable energy at a young age?
I'll go first, Becky, thanks. You know, it's interesting because I was in sort of the lull as a teacher after 7 or 8 years. There's so much stuff out there that is, read this, make a graph using their data, and it's not exciting. It's not good. And just like Doug said, the kids need real life stuff. So when you start doing alternative energy where you're checking on the output of your wind turbine that you made, or you're checking on a solar system that you're doing, or checking degrees, that's your data. It's real stuff. So when I was a kid, it was alternative energy that we learned about kind of briefly at the back of the book. And my goal as a teacher is that you take the word alternative out of there. It's just energy. It's out there for everybody. So I want the kids that come through our schools now to know this is part of our energy portfolio. It's not this alternative kind of off the grid thing only. We did a solar boat contest, the Northern California Solar Regatta, for about 6 years. And as 6th graders, we're the youngest group out there. And for a while, we were checking on the colleges, looking at the high schools, seeing what they had done. Well, by the end, we were able to win every race. And you've got University of San Francisco coming over, talking to 6th graders. Hey, how did you guys do that? And again, as many people have said, I heard Bevan say that you might have someone who's our speaker, our communications person. They were sending out updates to admin. We had people videoing. We had some folks on fundraising. We had some folks involved in the graphics. Some were pilots, but we only need 1 or 2. It is a real life example, just like KidWind. So with KidWind, it's the same thing. They were really plugged in. I think Corey has a few pictures possibly where we were looking last year at our contest, and our kids would come in at lunch. It was standing room only in the hallways for those kids to come check out their wind turbine and try the output. And they had to put a limit on how many seconds or how many tries they could have because other kids wanted to do it. I had one thing where kids were doing home energy audits. And again, you could do some of those things, not so interesting, but when they made a contract with their parents that if they saved money, they would get a portion of that savings. Now you're talking about real savings. So kids were making these contracts with parents, outrunning their allowance, making more money than their allowance. And then some of them were reinvesting their money into LED bulbs and things so that they could make more money when they save more coming down the road. And it dovetails into math and other things where you go, well, some naysayers say, well, we can't keep up with the amount of renewables. Well, then it comes up in math. If we reduce our demand by 50%, we've just doubled our renewable portfolio. So it's just a fun conversation to have in 6th graders, and it really gets them connected and into it. And then they start thinking about, gosh, I could do this for a living someday. I could be in this field. Instead of saying, gosh, why do we have one wind turbine there? Why don't we have more? Why do we have solar on that one roof? How come we don't have it on all of the roofs? Well, good question. Let's look at the cost and all that stuff. I go on and on. I'm going to let someone else talk, but thank you guys.
Hi, Greg. Thank you. So I'm going to give you some EDPR gear so you can start recruiting those 6th graders to come work for us, okay? Awesome stuff. So one of my favorite quotes that I love to say is, people don't know what they don't know, and they don't know the renewable energy space. And it's kind of our responsibility as industry leaders to educate, to partner with the educators like Greg, who's very passionate about renewable energy space, and to inform the students of the great possibilities, whether it's a field technician, whether it's a VP of operations, or all in the middle of that, CEO, right? It's important to create for students a broader net of career possibilities. I mean, how many students did you have prior, Greg, say, I want to be a doctor, an accountant, or something else? And then you show them the renewable energy space and all of the possibilities that they have. And now they're saying, I want to be an engineer like Doug. And so some just great conversation. And I don't think it's too early at all. I think these conversations actually have to happen at home and continue on in the school to make that connection for the students.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a question for Jaden, and you talked a little bit about this previously, but how has your experience with renewable energy and education that you had in high school impacted your education and career decisions, and what are you pursuing now? And maybe to Natalie's point, what did you think you wanted to be before you learned about this whole field that you didn't know existed, probably?
Yeah, so as I said previously, I am now pursuing a degree in physics, but that is in huge part because of my high school physics teacher and then getting involved with KidWind. And before I got into KidWind and learned about renewable energy in class, I honestly had no idea how we even got electricity or where it came from. I had seen wind turbines, but I really didn't even know the purpose of them. And I definitely did not think I would be pursuing a degree within the STEM industry. I was never really aware of the possibilities within that industry. And so through KidWind, I just became motivated because as I'm building my turbine and performing the different tests, I just felt encouraged to keep on trying to try harder and make my turbine more efficient. And as Doug said, my eyes just like lit up. And I just became ecstatic every time my turbine produced a higher power output. I was able to find more efficient blades and materials. And that really has made me want to go in a career now within the renewable energy sector, specifically wind power, of course.
Thank you. Do you think, important question, do you think that you could beat Greg's 6th graders in a turbine challenge?
Oh gosh, their turbines look pretty amazing. So I don't know, maybe neck and neck.
Okay, I won't hold you to anything. I want to kind of turn our attention with this next question to a question that I think a lot of our industry folks might be wondering, and so I'll direct this to some of you that work in industry, and that's, how do you justify an investment in workforce development for younger students when you can't track the immediate workforce impact that an investment in middle or high school might have? So I'm gonna go to Hannah and then Natalie, and then I'll ask Doug to speak on that. So I'll start with you, Hannah.
All right, so definitely loaded question, but also a great one. So we can't track the immediate, impact, but we can definitely track how many people are retiring at a very rapid pace, and definitely acknowledge that need that we need to replenish this workforce. So by doing that and recognizing it and making sure that we are aware of it, we can make sure we justify it just with that. But then also the immediate justification is something that we do in our programs is we actually do a pre and post knowledge test. So we don't expect students to know anything coming into our programs. We'll give them a pretty loaded exam. Definitely, it's not graded seriously, but we just want to see and gauge where they're at, and then we'll give them the exact same test at the end. And then we have had scores go from 20% to 100%. So that's one way that we justify, at least we know, we made an impact. And another way to justify it is now we have an advocate. So we have an advocate for the industry, for our company, for careers. When we have kids at the beginning, like you said, they come in, they want to be doctors, officers, different things, be involved in politics, and we expose them to everything that the industry can offer. And now we end the program with a girl who wants to be a substation technician, another one wants to be a wind turbine technician, and then you have the girl who wants to pursue an engineering career, and they're like, all right, well, you go there after high school, we'll meet you in 4 years, it'll be great. So that's just conversations you can even justify it with, but as long as your organization recognizes that we do have a retiring workforce, the need to expose students at an early age is definitely prevalent, especially seeing the trend towards technology come up with these future generations, and all of these industries that require hands-on careers are not going anywhere. We're always going to need people in those jobs, and that pool of candidates is going to get smaller and smaller as the generations want to be more involved with technology. We need to get to them sooner and earlier. So if we can get to them and expose them early on, before, obviously we want them to go somewhere that they enjoy, but if we can expose them to industry careers, the better. So that's one way that we justify it, and at least I pitch it to my manager anytime I have a new crazy idea for a program, and it usually works out. But I'll pass it to Natalie.
Thanks, Hannah. Another way to kind of justify the workforce impact, because you're looking at indirect impacts really when you're talking about involving the kids that can't immediately join the workforce. So a couple ways that I would suggest looking at it is, number one is a lot of the programs that we offer, either through KidWind or Energy Days that we participate in, actually require employee involvement. And employee involvement also, we encourage our employees to participate with their families. And so even though it's not a trackable impact that we can get, we're actually making an impact indirectly in those kids' lives. And then they become an advocate to their friends, and then it just kind of spirals from there. And I always think that community involvement at any level is an important way to indirectly impact the workforce. So that, again, is just one way to look at it: employee involvement, community involvement that gets your employer branding out there to ensure that people, when they think about renewable energy, they think about your organization. I always like to look at Starbucks, for example. How many of us right now call coffee and not Starbucks? They have completely branded themselves to change our mindset to not say, let's go for coffee. Now we say, let's go for Starbucks. So it's that impact indirectly that you have to the community. Another way that we have, as Hannah mentions, kind of creating those advocates that are going to be out there for your organization and just the renewable energy is through our internship program. Most companies, as you all know, with the pandemic, decided not to enforce a remote intern program. We decided to do the other. We decided to have a full-fledged remote intern program. First of the company's history, and it went off successfully. And now those individuals, whether they're freshmen to seniors, are now going to be our advocates on the college level to help us continue to educate. So again, those aren't, you can't really track it because you don't know what, like those sixth graders, Greg, that I'm going to come after in another 6 to 7 years, I won't be able to judge that impact on them until they actually join the workforce. But those are a couple of creative ways to get your leaders to kind of get on board with some of the things that we're talking about today. Bevan, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd love to. And, just to add on to what Natalie just said, I think a lot of us have seen, a solar panel installer and a wind turbine technician are two of the fastest growing jobs in this country. And, the renewable industry in general is, on a pretty steep growth trajectory. And so, planning ahead, while, we might not see in the next year or two those, sixth graders entering a career in renewables, we're always thinking about the future and know that, in 5 years, we're going to need more, employees. In 10 years, we're going to need more. And so it's never too early to start, introducing and exposing students to these careers. Education is inherently important, and it's something that our company, supports, whether it's renewable energy education or just local schools in general. But when it comes to renewables, it really, as Natalie had said, from a kind of support building perspective, kind of a branding perspective, wind farms are still relatively new. Some of our older projects are 10, maybe 15 years old now, but, most, it's only these students, these the youngest kids that are growing up with wind farms around them and are familiar with them. And so, by going into classrooms, teaching folks about these careers, helping them, understand how the technology works, it's a really great way for us to, educate the broader community and, help build some of that, not so much support, but just a familiarity with what is a generally new technology that folks are, in some cases potentially scared of. And then finally, it's a great way for us to build relationships. Kids come back, they bring a wind turbine kit home, they start playing with it, their parents ask questions, they hear about, the cool climbing harness they saw in the classroom because some wind techs showed up and gave a little talk. And it's a really great way for us to interact with schools and teachers and, just show up in community. So I think, the workforce development part is key and extremely important, but there are so many other more immediate benefits out of supporting this work that, that's almost just the icing on the cake in a way.
Agreed. Thank you. And Doug, do you have anything to add to that as well?
Sure, real quick. The average age of the skilled trade workforce is 52, and the average age of electricians is 45. I have working for me a first-year apprentice who is 36 years old, and he is just now getting into a skilled trade training program. Like so many students or so many people his age or in that age bracket, he went through school, he went through middle school, he went through high school, and people said, look, if you're not going to college, you're gonna work in the service industry, so you got to go to college. And this particular student was not college material, and he missed out on an opportunity for skilled trade. So if there are industry partners that are listening, you got to get to the 7th graders, and then you got to see them again as a 10th grader, and then you got to see them again as a 12th grader, because there are not enough counselors who understand the value of skilled trades in a high school or middle school setting. That's the bottom line. As an educator and an industry person, the industry people have to get in there and say, look, I can find me some engineers, but I need someone who can climb a tower. I need someone who can be an installer. I need someone who can terminate some wires. You know, I need those skilled trades, and you got to show that. You got to show where, you know, that pays $60,000 a year. You know, that pays $70,000, $80,000 a year, and you know, that's what kids want to see. And that, as an industry person, you know, we can't hire enough people to work for Design Electric. And we have 250 employees, and we need 45 more at least. And we just can't find them because that we're trying to gather a workforce from a generation that was told they had to go to college. And that's where we have to change that perception. Why can't you do both? I did, right? I got a skilled trade and then went to college, right? So that's where the industry partners have to come in and say, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're recruiting. And, you know, there's a big focus on, you know, some post-secondary people, but your bread and butter every day are the skilled trades people. You know, I'm an electrician by trade. I'm going to be the first guy on the job site, giving everybody temporary power. And I'm going to be the last guy to leave because I can't finish till the painter's done, right? So I get to be there for the whole job, not just a little part of it. And that's an amazing scenario to be but the industry partners have to be able to show all the pieces to the puzzle. You know, it's one thing to see the big picture, the renewable energy picture. It's one thing to see the wind industry as a picture, but what about all the pieces of the puzzle, all of the mosaic pieces that make that up, right? Because, you know, when you look at a mosaic, man, it is crazy beautiful, but flip it over, right? All the tears and the tatters and all the pieces and parts that got put together, that's what made the mosaic beautiful. And that's where skilled industry comes in. We're the backdrop of the mosaic. And that's what I would like to say to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah. My next question, Greg, I'm going to direct this towards you. How does teaching renewable energy affect your students' outlook on the world more generally, and even at a young age, maybe influence their career thoughts and choices compared to what they would have experienced if they weren't studying these things in school?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because in class you have this whole spectrum of folks that might be really conservative or might be very liberal, and the need and the KidWin curriculum is just very factual. So you can gather up all that information and kids can say, gosh, we could go solar and do wind because of the impacts and less CO2, or you could look at it with economy and go, gosh, it could save us money to have this part of our portfolio. It doesn't really matter. And so it can be kind of gloom and doom, and our kids have been through a ton the last few years, and so they've seen a lot of the gloom and doom. And so to see this on the rebuilding process where we live, to see this where it has this outlook like, oh, we're kind of starting over. We could make that change right now. And so many homes going in Paradise are putting renewables on them. And it's also interesting too, because there are a lot of things in school that are just, here's the right answer. But like the KidWin project, it's like golf. You can always get a better score. You can, they're just out there. What a perfectly designed thing. We've even had kids say, what if we come up with something better than that they have out there in the world right now? I mean, we've got thousands of kids testing this all year long, and there might be a breakthrough in wind from one of these wind turbines that kids put together. And I love it because they'll say, well, what if I do that? Is that better? I don't know the answer. Let's test it. Let's try it out right now. It's hands-on. And then the last thing I'll just end with is, it's funny to think about it, but I've heard it said that, you know, in 10 years, the jobs that are out there, a bunch of them haven't been invented yet. So someone had told me in middle school that you're going to sell bottled water. I would have just laughed at him like, there's no way you're going to sell bottled water. Or there'd be a social media expert. That's like, yeah, right. What is that? And now you have people making a lot of money and in those two fields that were never around. So we have to teach kids to think on their feet, think that anything is possible, and that'll make their outlook to say, gosh, I could do anything. And I think that's what the world needs. Thanks.
Agreed. Awesome. The last question that I have, I'm going to ask Hannah, Natalie, and Jaden from your perspective on this issue. What role does K-12 workforce engagement play in bringing women and people of color into the renewable energy industry, into the energy industry in general, which statistically is very low in terms of both of those populations? Let's start with Hannah.
It plays a huge role just because the more workforce development programs that you offer, the more you have control of their audience. What are they seeing? Who are they speaking with? Who's their network going to be? So if we have, for example, again, going back to my Tools of the Trade program, we make sure that we have a female lineman or a line worker, you know, something that they probably have ingrained in them. That's not a female job, but we're going to change that. We're going to change their views on things and have them see themselves in that person. So we try to kind of form our development programs around the audience of our students so that they can identify themselves in the guest speaker or the field trip that day, or, you know, some of the careers that we expose them to. And then, you know, you grow up and it depends on your environment. You're told one thing and, you know, at home you have this different mindset, and then you come to a place like ComEd and we tell you, here's all the range of opportunities you have. There are male, female, every ethnicity in every single one of these careers, and you can identify that, and it just makes a world of difference. It helps them with their confidence. It helps them just kind of see themselves in their future career. It helps them navigate what are their goals going to be and their steps they can take starting from 6th grade to their senior year. So it's great, and ComEd does a really good job working specifically in those demographics with their Excellence STEM Academy, which is all girls, our Icebox Derby, which is all girls. We have different solar spotlights that only touch on certain demographics. So we try to make sure that everyone is exposed to it and, like I said, can be represented in themselves in that.
Thank you, Hannah. As Hannah said, I think it's important to just create a broader net. Don't stick to the same schools, you know, continue to diversify the level of educators that you bring in to help, as Bevan mentioned, to train the different educators, expand past the wind farms. Houston is a very diverse city too, so the opportunities that we participate in really impact a good broad number of women, color, diversity, ethnicity. In fact, EDP Renewable, we have about 800 employees, and we're probably representative of 23 to 24 different nationalities. So really important to you know, talk the talk and be diverse, because that's how you build inclusive teams and create those great workforce.
Awesome.
Bevan, did you have anything else you wanted to add about KidWind?
You know, just generally that, you know, as I was saying, it's such a great way to expose students, and you know, I think that's really the key with building a more diverse workforce, is just introducing folks to this material, to these careers, and you know, letting them see if it's something that they're interested in doing. And so that's exactly what this does. And the more we support this work, the more we get out and do it, I think inevitably we'll see, you know, the more diversity coming into our industry, which is a great thing.
And Jaden, from your perspective?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Hannah and Natalie that it plays a huge role, because personally, in my first years of high school, I lacked confidence in my educational abilities when it came to science and math. It was never something I was heavily exposed to, and so I never thought I could succeed in that realm. I never saw myself being good at math, being good at sciences, and I never could have imagined myself constructing something as complex as a wind turbine. And so through being in Kidwind and building turbines that could power lights and pump water, I just seen that hands-on problem solving, it just inspired me, and my confidence in what I could do grew so much, and it really just opened my eyes to the possibilities and what I could achieve.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, I think we may be out of time. Do I have time for one or two audience questions from the people who control the world? Nobody's telling me no yet. So we're going to take just a few audience questions. The first question I have is for Remy, and the question is, how do states become active in Wind for Schools, and how do they join in that program?
That is a fantastic question. Repowering schools is relatively new, and we're at the point where we finally established the 12 active states that were active in Wind for Schools to kind of enable them to fundraise at the state level on their own. And now we're just getting into that time in our organization where we're confident and have the bandwidth to address bringing in new states. So to answer your question, there's not really a set protocol, but if you email me and you want to be, we have been asking state to write a little MOU, and we try to kind of figure out how it's going to get structured, because it's important to have the university component and the K-12 component, and then the ability to fundraise. So we just kind of check on some of the main structural pieces of the program to make sure that you're in a good place. And that we've worked with Rhode Island, which is like this close to being an official new state, which is kind of exciting. So I guess it's a really long way of saying it's kind of case by case right now. And if you're interested, just email me and we'll make it happen.
Awesome. And I've got time for one more question. And this question is for Hannah. Does ComEd recruit at universities for renewable workforce needs?
It's kind of dependent. So we have energy efficiency department. We don't specifically install solar panels, but we have a solar department dedicated. It's something that we're working into, things like community solar and how to kind of, we have certain restrictions within the ICC in terms of our parent company, Exelon, too, because they're kind of our generation part of it, and we're more the distribution side of things. So we don't recruit specifically, probably on campus, on college, and for whoever asked this, you can follow up with me too via email, and I can get you a specific answer. But from my perspective, we recruit heavily on college for a lot of our engineer positions, some project management, and then our field worker positions, we recruit heavily as well, but not specific or renewable energy, if that was a good answer to your question.
Yeah. So I've got a few more questions, but unfortunately I'm out of question time. What we will do is we will follow up with your questions. Some of them were kind of specific, so we will follow up with you and make sure that we get you connected to good resources. I want to thank our panel, and then I also would like to turn it over to Corey.
Thank you so much, Becky. I really appreciate you moderating this session, and to all of the speakers, I so enjoyed hearing the conversation today. And again, want to also thank the Department of Energy's Wind Energy Technology Office and the American Wind Energy Association for supporting this series. We hope you'll be able to join our final webinar in the series tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern Time. Please head over to the AWEA events page to sign up and see the other great events they have coming up. If you have any questions related to this webinar, if you didn't get your question answered, please contact me. My email address is on this final slide, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Corey.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.